Imagine standing in a monastery garden. 1347. The Black Death is at the gates. Half of Europe will be dead within 3 years. But here, in the shadow of the cloister, monks guard something the plague doctors don't have. A garden of plants they believe were sent by angels. These weren't folk remedies. They were prescribed by royal decree, cultivated by imperial order, protected as sacred medicine. So why don't you know about them? Because someone decided you shouldn't. The archive opens in a medieval Physic garden. Physic, from the Greek physikos, of nature, of healing. This is where Benedictine monks preserved what the Roman Empire left behind. The botanical wisdom of Galen, Dioscorides, Hippocrates, not in dusty libraries, in living soil. Every plant you're about to see was cultivated within these stone walls, tested on the sick, recorded by careful hands, passed down through centuries, until the day the garden gates closed and we forgot. In 1150, a German abbess named Hildegard of Bingen documented over 200 medicinal plants, their properties, their dangers, their divine purpose. She wasn't alone. 3 centuries earlier, Charlemagne himself issued the Capitulare de Villis, a royal decree mandating that specific herbs be cultivated in every imperial estate. This wasn't superstition, it was policy. When the Black Death arrived, monastery infirmaries became the only functioning hospitals. Monks were among the few willing to treat the dying, and their gardens became the front line. Plants weren't just medicine, they were survival. They were sacred. They were the difference between a village that lived and a village that disappeared. Then came the Industrial Revolution. Not a conspiracy, an economic reality. You can't patent a wild plant. You can't scale a monastery garden. You can't profit from something that grows in every ditch and backyard. So the industry that rose in the 1800s didn't ban these plants. They did something more effective. They ignored them, reclassified them, called them weeds. The plants that once sat in royal decrees now sat in herbicide advertisements. And within 2 generations, we forgot what our great-grandmothers knew. Today, we're reopening the garden. Let's begin with the plant monks wore around their necks when the plague came knocking. The monks called it Angelica, the angelic herb, because legend said the Archangel Michael revealed it during a plague. When the Black Death arrived, monks wore pieces of Angelica root around their necks. They believed its scent could purify infected air. Plague doctors stuffed it into their beaked masks. Was it superstition? Modern analysis says no. Angelica contains furicoumarins, compounds with genuine antibacterial and antiviral properties. The same chemistry that made it sacred to monks now makes it essential to craft distillers. You'll find Angelica in the finest botanical gins, but you won't find it in most gardens. How to grow. Zones 4 through 9. Partial shade. Moist soil. Biennial. One plant will self-seed for years. But Angelica was gentle. The next plant in the monastery garden was anything but. The most paradoxical plant in the monastery. A poison so potent it could stop a heart, yet a medicine so respected it was prescribed to save one. Monks called it the ladder to heaven and cultivated it with gloved hands, in separate rooms. In skilled hands, it treated dropsy, what we now call congestive heart failure. In unskilled hands, it killed. One extra leaf could transform medicine into murder. The secret? Cardiac glycosides, compounds so similar to modern heart medications that medieval monks were unknowingly pioneering cardiology. Today, Lily of the Valley is sold in garden centers without warning labels. Its deadly secrets locked away in forgotten herbals. Growing note: zones 3 through 8. Shade. Beautiful but toxic. Handle with care. Not for consumption. From deadly to humble. The next plant might be growing in your driveway right now. While castle physicians charged gold, monks taught commoners about a plant growing free in every path and pasture. They called it the mother of herbs, the soldier's herb, the healer's step, because it seemed to grow wherever healers walked. Crushed leaves on wounds stopped bleeding. Tea from leaves eased coughs. Seeds provided fiber like modern psyllium. The science backs it up. Plantain contains allantoin and aucubin, compounds now studied by the FDA for wound healing. Today, we spray it with herbicide. We call it a weed. Meanwhile, your great-grandmother would have chewed those leaves and pressed them onto bee stings. How to grow? You don't. It's already in your lawn. Zones 3 through 12. Just stop killing it. If plantain was the monastery's bandage, the next plant was its sledgehammer. When subtlety failed, monks reached for horseradish, the monastery's medicine chest in a single root. Here's what medieval farmers knew. Intact horseradish does nothing. It needs to be crushed, grated, bruised, to unleash its power. The resulting paste generated heat so intense it reddened skin, opened airways, and brought tears to the eyes. Monks packed it onto chests to break fevers. Mixed with vinegar, it preserved meat before refrigeration. Modern analysis explains why. Isothiocyanates, 10 times more glucosinolates than broccoli. Powerful antimicrobial compounds. Today, it's been reduced to a condiment. The medicine chest became a steak sauce. How to grow. Zones 3 through 9. Any soil. Warning, plant in containers. It will take over. Horseradish was for emergencies. But what about the slow emergencies? The weeks when food simply ran out. Medieval farmers called it the hunger gap. The dangerous weeks between winter's end and spring's bounty, when food stores dwindled and new crops weren't ready. Enter chickweed, star-shaped flowers, mild, sweet flavor. Available when nothing else was. Women collected it by the basketful, adding it to pottages and breads to stretch limited flour. Even children could eat it raw. Villages with access to chickweed had measurably lower death rates during famine years. Medieval calendars specifically tracked its emergence, marking the official end of the hunger moon. Today, those medieval peasants would weep watching us reach for weed killer. How to grow. Zones 4 through 11. Self-seeds in disturbed soil. Edible raw. Free food. From survival food to something more tender. The plant Charlemagne ordered in every imperial garden. We spend billions on anxiety medications. Meanwhile, a gentle herb once valued enough for royal decree grows neglected in garden corners. In the year 800, Charlemagne himself ordered lemon balm planted in all imperial gardens. Hildegard of Bingen described it as capable of making the heart merry and joyful. Medieval physicians called it a cordial, a remedy for the heart and spirit. They prescribed it for melancholy vapors, what we now call depression and anxiety. Modern research confirms lemon balm has genuine anxiolytic and antiviral properties. Safe for children, safe for the elderly, effective against cold sores. Your grandmother's tea for worried hearts. Still works, still ignored. How to grow. Zones 4 through 9. Full sun to part shade. Spreads, laughably easy. Lemon balm soothes. The next plant teaches a harder lesson. Monastery writings compared stinging nettle to life itself. Difficult to grasp, but ultimately strengthening. The sting wasn't a flaw. It was the medicine. Monks deliberately brushed nettles across arthritic joints, a practice called urtication. The irritation increased blood flow and reduced deeper pain. But nettle's greatest gift came in spring. Young shoots, harvested with gloved hands and cooked like spinach, provided nutrition when winter stores ran empty. The numbers are extraordinary. more iron than spinach, more calcium than milk. Complete protein with all essential amino acids. Today we fear its sting. We kill it as a nuisance. We've forgotten what the monastery knew. How to grow. Zones 3 through 10. Moist soil. Wear gloves. Spreads. Nettle was food and fiber. But one plant held medieval Europe together. Medieval Europe was literally held together by flax. The sails that powered naval exploration. The linen pages that preserved illuminated manuscripts. The bandages that dressed battlefield wounds. All flax. But monks valued the seeds even more. Tiny golden powerhouses containing omega-3 fatty acids in concentrations unmatched by any other common plant. In regions where fish was scarce, flax provided essential fats now known to support brain development and reduce inflammation. Medieval physicians observed the effects, prescribing ground flax for joint pain, dry skin, constipation, without knowing the biochemistry. Charlemagne mandated flax on every royal farm. Blue fields stretched across the continent. Today, we buy fish oil capsules. The original source grows forgotten. How to grow. Zones 5 through 9. Full sun. Poor soil is fine. 100 days to seed. Flax was nutrition. The next plant was something simpler, a bread that didn't make you sick. Here's an irony that cuts deep. Our improved modern wheat provides more calories, but significantly less nutrition per serving. Einkorn, the wheat humans grew for 10,000 years, continued to hold ground in medieval fields long after newer varieties arrived. Alpine monastery communities maintained special communal fields exclusively for einkorn, protected by local laws against conversion, not because of tradition, because of reliability. Deep roots, disease resistance, thrived in poor soil. When higher yield wheat failed, einkorn stood. The numbers: 30% more protein than modern wheat, higher lutein for eye health, just 14 chromosomes versus 42, making it more digestible and potentially less inflammatory. We replaced wisdom with yield. Now we wonder why bread makes us sick. How to grow. Zones 5 through 9. Poor soil acceptable. Drought tolerant. Fall planting. And finally, the plant that refuses to disappear. Archaeological digs have found Good King Henry still growing near abandoned village foundations, 500 years after settlements were deserted. Let that sink in. Half a millennium without human care, and it's still there, still producing. The genius of this plant lies in its three-part harvest. Early spring shoots, emerging when nothing else grows, harvested like asparagus. Summer leaves offering spinach-like greens for months. Autumn seeds that could be ground into flour. One plant. 3 harvests. 0 maintenance. No replanting. The closest thing to agricultural permanence. While nobles feasted on imported delicacies, this humble perennial quietly sustained generations of common folk. It didn't need them. They needed it. How to grow. Zones 3 through 9. Partial shade. Poor soil. Perennial. Plant once. That's it. What the monks knew through faith, science now confirms through data. Cardiac glycosides. Furocoumarins. Omega-3 fatty acids. Allantoin. Isothiocyanates. Terms they never knew. Effects they witnessed every day. They weren't guessing. They were observing for 800 years. These plants didn't disappear. They waited. In the margins of your lawn, in the cracks of your driveway, in the weeds you've been told to pull. The monastery's garden never closed. It just moved. To your backyard. Now you know what grows there. Now you remember what was forgotten. You are the keeper now. If knowledge like this shouldn't be lost again, you know what to do.